Hello family, today we will see, what if Harry Potter was raised and trained by Cyborg or smart and overpowered AI robot? Today I won't be giving credits to authors cause I'm the author of this story. This is my first ever written story, please tell me if should I continue this or not by doing 50 likes in this video. Now let's move on to the video. Prologue, the Cyborg. The morning sun cast a golden glow over the spires of Hogwarts, illuminating the ancient stone walls with a warmth that belied the crispness of the air. Students bustled about the castle, their laughter and chatter filling the hallways as they moved between classes. In the vast expanse of the Quidditch pitch, Harry Potter soared on his firebolt, practicing for the upcoming inter-house Quidditch tournament. "Great catch, Harry," shouted Ron Weasley from the stands, a grin spreading across his freckled face. Hermione Granger sat beside him, her nose buried in a thick book on advanced defensive spells. "Thanks, Ron," Harry called back, catching the quaffle and tossing it to Ginny Weasley, who executed a perfect loop before passing it back. The practice session was intense but enjoyable, and Harry felt a surge of excitement about the tournament. He landed gracefully as Madame Hooch blew her whistle, signaling the end of practice. "Good job, team," Harry said, clapping his teammates on the back. "We'll crush Slytherin next week." As the team dispersed, Harry, Ron, and Hermione made their way back to the castle, discussing their strategies and tactics for the match. The trio walked through the familiar corridors of Hogwarts, the walls adorned with portraits of past headmasters and the occasional enchanted suit of armor that saluted them as they passed. Just as they reached the entrance to the Great Hall, a chill swept through the air. Harry felt an eerie coldness creeping up his spine, a sensation he hadn't experienced in years. He exchanged a worried glance with Hermione, who looked equally uneasy. "Harry, do you feel that?" she whispered. "Yeah," Harry replied, his voice tense. "It's like Dementors." Before they could say another word, the sky outside darkened unnaturally. A low, ominous hum resonated through the air, and the students in the Great Hall looked up in confusion and fear. Dumbledore appeared at the entrance, his usually calm demeanor replaced by a look of grave concern. "Everyone, remain calm," he commanded, his voice echoing through the hall. "Prefects, lead your houses to the common rooms immediately." As students began to move, the temperature dropped even further. Harry, Ron, and Hermione hurried to Dumbledore's side. "Professor, what's happening?" Harry asked urgently. Dumbledore's eyes narrowed as he peered out the window. "It appears we are under attack. Dementors, and something far worse." Suddenly, the Dementors breached the castle grounds, their ghastly forms gliding ominously towards the Great Hall. Harry instinctively reached for his wand, but as he attempted to cast a Patronus charm, nothing happened. His magic felt completely drained. "Professor, I can't," Harry began, but Dumbledore interrupted him. "It's not just you, Harry. Something is nullifying our magic," Dumbledore said, his tone heavy with worry. The Great Hall erupted into chaos as students and teachers alike found their spells ineffective. Panic spread as the Dementors closed in. Dumbledore raised his hand, trying to summon the last of his strength to protect his students, but even his formidable powers seemed useless against the unseen force. Then, as if to answer the unspoken question, a colossal shadow loomed over the castle. Through the high windows, they could see a massive craft, unlike anything they had ever seen before, descending from the sky. It was a huge, metallic structure, shimmering with an eerie light and emitting a strange, low-frequency hum that seemed to resonate with the nullification of their magic. Dumbledore's eyes widened in realization and horror. DSC 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. "This is no ordinary attack," he murmured. "This is something beyond our world." As the ship hovered ominously above Hogwarts, a beam of light shot out, scanning the grounds and the castle itself. The air was thick with tension and fear, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione could only watch in stunned silence as the unimaginable unfolded before their eyes. The air in the Great Hall was thick with tension. Students huddled together, their faces pale with fear and confusion. The normally bustling and lively atmosphere was replaced by an eerie silence, punctuated only by the low hum of the descending spacecraft. Dumbledore's voice, though calm, carried a sense of urgency as he directed the prefects to lead the students to their common rooms. "Everyone, stay calm and move quickly," he instructed, his eyes never leaving the looming ship. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stayed close to Dumbledore, their hearts pounding in their chests. The massive craft, with its metallic sheen and otherworldly design, hovered above the castle like a harbinger of doom. Harry couldn't shake the feeling that this was somehow connected to Voldemort, but the sheer scale and strangeness of it suggested something even more sinister. "Dumbledore, what should we do?" Harry asked, his voice barely concealing his panic. Dumbledore's face, usually so composed, was etched with worry. "We must wait and see what this being wants. Whatever force is nullifying our magic is beyond anything we've encountered before. Stay close, Harry." The ground trembled as the spacecraft descended, its immense weight causing the earth to quake. A series of bright green lights pierced the air from the ship's hull, casting an unearthly glow over the castle grounds. The ship's door began to open, a blinding light spilling out and distorting their vision. Shielding his eyes from the harsh light, Harry squinted to make out the figures emerging from the ship. His heart sank as he saw a legion of robots, their metallic bodies glinting menacingly in the light, marching towards the castle. Each step they took resonated with the weight of impending doom. The wizards and witches around Harry watched in helpless horror. With their magic nullified, they were reduced to mere bystanders, unable to protect their beloved school. As the robots approached, Harry noticed a figure standing at the forefront, orchestrating their movements. The figure's voice echoed through the air, cold and menacing. "I will finally take you, Harry Potter." The realization hit Harry like a lightning bolt. This was not Voldemort, but someone who seemed to know him well enough to make him their target. The figure stepped into view, and Harry's blood ran cold. It was a tall, imposing figure clad in a combination of advanced armor and wizard robes, a stark reminder that this enemy possessed both technological prowess and magical knowledge. Dumbledore stepped forward, his eyes locked on the figure. "Who are you, and what do you want with Hogwarts?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the tension. The figure smirked, raising a hand to halt the advancing robots. "I am Lord Volter, ruler of the Celestial Realms. Your petty magic is no match for my technology. Surrender, Harry Potter, and I might spare the rest of your pathetic school." Harry felt a surge of defiance rise within him. "I'll never surrender to you," he shouted, stepping forward to stand beside Dumbledore. Volter's eyes gleamed with amusement. "Brave words, Potter. But bravery will not save you this time." As the robots resumed their advance, Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchanged determined glances. Despite the fear that gripped them, they knew they had to find a way to protect Hogwarts and each other. Dumbledore turned to the trio. "We must find a way to counteract this nullification. There may be something within the castle ancient magic that can help us." With a nod, Harry, Ron, and Hermione set off towards the library, their minds racing with possibilities. He/she 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. As they ran through the corridors, the sounds of the advancing robots echoed behind them, a constant reminder of the urgency of their mission. Inside the library, Hermione frantically scanned the shelves for any clues. "There must be something here, something that can help us." Ron grabbed a heavy tome and started flipping through the pages. "Anything specific we should be looking for?" "Anything related to ancient protective spells or counter charms," Hermione replied, her voice tense. As they searched, Harry's mind drifted to the prophecy that had guided him through so many challenges. He couldn't shake the feeling that this new enemy, Lord Volter, was somehow intertwined with his destiny. They had faced unimaginable threats before, but this was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Meanwhile, back in the Great Hall, Dumbledore and the other professors were organizing the remaining students and staff, attempting to keep everyone calm and safe. The Great Hall's massive doors were sealed, but the vibrations from the robot's approach made it clear that they wouldn't hold for long. "We need to buy Harry and his friends more time," McGonagall said, her voice steady but urgent. "What can we do, Albus?" Dumbledore's eyes were fixed on the windows, where the hulking silhouettes of the robots loomed closer. "We may not have our magic, but we still have our wits and our courage. We must defend this castle with everything we have. Prepare the barricades, and use any non-magical means at our disposal to slow their advance." In the library, Hermione let out a triumphant gasp as she pulled an ancient, dusty book from the shelf. "Here. Magica Antiqua. Defenses of the Old World. This might have what we need." Harry and Ron crowded around her as she flipped through the brittle pages. "Look, there's a section on wards and protective enchantments predating modern magic. If we can recreate these, it might disrupt whatever is nullifying our magic." Ron frowned, looking at the complex diagrams. "But without magic, how are we supposed to set these up?" Hermione bit her lip, deep in thought. "These spells are rooted in runic magic. If we inscribe the runes physically around the castle, it might activate the protective enchantments. It's a long shot, but it's our best chance." Harry nodded resolutely. "Let's do it. We need to split up and cover as much ground as possible." Grabbing the book, the trio divided the tasks. Hermione stayed in the library to decode and transcribe the runes, while Harry and Ron gathered supplies and started inscribing the runes at key points around the castle. Time was running out, and every second counted. Outside, the first wave of robots reached the castle gates. Their cold, mechanical precision was terrifying to behold. The staff and older students, armed with whatever they could find, brooms, chairs, and even kitchen utensils, stood ready to defend their home. A massive clang echoed through the halls as the robots began pounding on the doors. The barricades trembled, and it was clear they wouldn't hold for long. Dumbledore stood at the forefront, his presence a beacon of strength and resolve. "Hold the line," he commanded. "We must protect Hogwarts at all costs." The doors finally gave way, and the robots urged forward. Chaos erupted as the defenders clashed with the invaders. Despite the lack of magic, the students and staff fought valiantly, using their knowledge of the castle's layout to their advantage. In the midst of the battle, Harry and Ron worked feverishly, inscribing the runes in strategic locations. The ancient symbols glowed faintly as they completed each one, a hopeful sign that their efforts were not in vain. "How much longer, Hermione?" Harry shouted as he carved the last rune into the stone floor. Hermione, running towards them with a book in hand, replied, "Just a few more. We need to complete the circuit around the castle to activate the protective enchantment." The battle in the Great Hall was intensifying. VSH 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. The defenders were being pushed back, their makeshift weapons no match for the robots' relentless assault. Dumbledore, wielding a heavy iron candlestick, fought with a strength that belied his age. Just as hope seemed to be fading, a faint hum resonated through the castle. The runes inscribed by Harry, Ron, and Hermione began to glow brighter, their light forming a protective barrier around Hogwarts. The robots faltered, their movements becoming sluggish and disoriented. "It's working," Hermione cried, her eyes wide with relief. The protective enchantment, fueled by the ancient magic of the runes, spread across the castle. The nullifying effect on their magic began to wane, and the wizards and witches felt their powers returning. With renewed strength, they launched a counterattack against the robots. Dumbledore raised his wand, now glowing with restored magic. "Expulso!" he shouted, and a powerful blast of energy erupted from his wand, sending a wave of robots flying. Harry, feeling his magic return, summoned his Patronus. Expecto Patronum. The bright silvery stag burst forth, charging at the remaining robots and scattering them. Lord Voldemort watched from the entrance, his expression one of cold fury. "This is not over, Potter," he snarled. "I will return, and you will not be so fortunate next time." But the final contemptuous glance, Voldemort and his remaining forces retreated into the spacecraft. The ship lifted off, disappearing into the night sky, leaving behind the wreckage of the battle. The Great Hall fell silent, the defenders panting and exhausted but victorious. Dumbledore turned to face the students and staff, his eyes filled with pride and relief. "We have won this battle, but the war is far from over," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "We must remain vigilant and prepare for whatever comes next." Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood together, their bond stronger than ever. They knew that the challenges ahead would be even greater, but they also knew that as long as they stood together, they could face anything. As the dawn broke over Hogwarts, the castle stood resilient, a symbol of hope and defiance against the darkness that threatened their world. The battle was over, but the fight for their future had only just begun. Sure, let's continue with Chapter 3. Here is an extended and detailed version. The first rays of dawn cast a soft light over the battered grounds of Hogwarts. The once serene and majestic castle now bore the scars of the battle. Shattered windows, charred stone, and the twisted remains of the robotic invaders. Despite the destruction, there was a palpable sense of relief and determination among the students and staff. They had faced an unimaginable threat and emerged victorious, but the looming threat of Lord Voldemort still hung heavily over them. In the Great Hall, the tables had been cleared away to make room for makeshift medical stations. Madame Pomfrey and her assistants moved swiftly among the injured, administering potions and healing spells. The hall was filled with the murmurs of tired voices and the occasional groan of pain. Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood near one of the long tables, helping where they could, though the exhaustion was evident on their faces. "How are you holding up?" Ron asked, glancing at Harry as he handed a potion vial to a third year who had sprained his ankle. Harry wiped a hand across his forehead, smearing a streak of dirt. "Tired, but we'll get through this. We always do." Hermione, who had been helping Madame Pomfrey with more complex injuries, joined them, her face pale but resolute. "We need to regroup and figure out our next steps. Voldemort will come back, and we need to be ready." As if on cue, Dumbledore approached them, his usually twinkling eyes now serious. "Harry, Ron, Hermione, come with me. We need to discuss our next course of action." They followed Dumbledore to his office, the familiar path bringing a sense of comfort amidst the chaos. VSH 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. Once inside, they gathered around the large desk where Dumbledore seated himself, looking more tired and aged than they had ever seen him. "First, let me commend you on your bravery and quick thinking last night," Dumbledore began, his voice steady. "Your efforts in activating the ancient runes were instrumental in our victory. However, we must not let our guard down. Lord Voldemort is a formidable foe, and he will not rest until he achieves his goal." "Who is this Voldemort?" Harry asked, his brow furrowing. "And why is he after me?" Dumbledore sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Lord Voldemort is an ancient sorcerer, far older than Voldemort. He comes from a realm beyond our own, a place where magic and technology are intertwined. His power is immense, and his knowledge of both our world and his own makes him incredibly dangerous." Hermione's eyes widened. "But why come here now? And why target Harry?" "Voldemort has always sought to dominate and control," Dumbledore explained. "His arrival here is not coincidental. He believes that by capturing you, Harry, he can unlock the full potential of the prophecy that foretold your role in defeating Voldemort. With you in his grasp, he could twist that power to his own ends. Harry felt a chill run down his spine. So, what do we do? We need to understand his technology and find a way to counteract it, Dumbledore said. For that, we may need to seek knowledge beyond our usual resources. There is a hidden library within the Department of Mysteries. It contains ancient texts and artifacts that might hold the key to defeating Volter. The Department of Mysteries. Ron repeated, a note of apprehension in his voice. Isn't that where? Yes, Dumbledore said quietly. Where Sirius fell. But it is also where we might find the answers we seek. Hermione's face was set with determination. We should go as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the stronger Volter will become. Dumbledore nodded. Prepare yourselves. This journey will not be easy, and we must move swiftly and with great caution. I will make the necessary arrangements for you to access the hidden library. As they left Dumbledore's office, the gravity of their new mission weighed heavily on their minds. There was no time to lose. They returned to the Great Hall, where the remaining students were starting to clean up and repair the damage. Harry, Ron, and Hermione gathered their essentials, packing only what they would need for the journey ahead. As they worked, Ginny approached them, her eyes filled with concern. You're going after him, aren't you? She asked, her voice steady despite the worry in her gaze. Harry nodded. We have to. If we don't stop him now, he'll come back even stronger. Ginny looked at Harry, a mixture of fear and admiration in her eyes. Be careful, all of you. We can't afford to lose any of you. We'll be back, Hermione assured her. And hopefully, with the means to defeat Volter for good. The trio made their way to the room of requirement, seeking a moment of quiet before they embarked on their mission. The room provided them with a cozy, secluded space filled with comfortable chairs and a warm fire. I can't believe we're going back to the Department of Mysteries, Ron said, his voice heavy with memories. It feels like a lifetime ago. It does, Harry agreed. But we have to stay focused. Volter is a different kind of enemy, and we can't underestimate him. Hermione, always the planner, spread out a map of the Ministry of Magic. We need to review our route and make sure we know exactly where we're going. The hidden library is said to be behind the Hall of Prophecies. We'll need to be quick and quiet. As they planned, the enormity of their task began to sink in. They were venturing into the unknown once again, but this time, the stakes felt even higher. Failure was not an option. Early the next morning, under the cover of dawn, they set out for the Ministry of Magic. Viashi 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. The journey through the familiar streets of London felt surreal. The city was just waking up, oblivious to the monumental battle that had taken place at Hogwarts the night before. They used the visitors' entrance to enter the ministry, avoiding the main entrances to stay undetected. The ministry was quiet, the early hour ensuring that few people were around to notice them. They moved swiftly, navigating the hallways and corridors that led to the Department of Mysteries. Reaching the familiar black door that marked the entrance, Harry took a deep breath. The last time they had been here, they had faced immense loss and pain. He glanced at Ron and Hermione, who nodded their support. They pushed the door open and stepped into the circular room with its many identical doors. Hermione quickly led them to the door that opened into the Hall of Prophecies. The vast dark room stretched out before them, filled with row upon row of dusty glass orbs. Keep close, Hermione whispered. We need to find the entrance to the hidden library. They moved quietly through the hall, their eyes scanning the shelves for any sign of the entrance. Finally, Hermione spotted a small, unmarked door at the far end of the room. This must be it, she said, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. They opened the door and stepped into a narrow corridor lined with ancient runes and symbols. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and forgotten magic. As they walked, the walls seemed to pulse with a faint eerie light, guiding them deeper into the hidden library. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with towering bookshelves, each crammed with ancient tomes and scrolls. The room was lit by floating orbs of light that cast a gentle glow over the countless volumes. Look at this place, Ron whispered, awe in his voice. It's incredible. We need to find anything related to countering nullification fields and advanced magic, Hermione said, already scanning the shelves. They split up, each taking a section of the library. The hours passed as they pored over books and scrolls, searching for the knowledge they needed. The silence of the library was punctuated only by the occasional rustle of pages and the distant hum of the magical orbs. As Harry reached for a particularly old and dusty tome, a chill ran down his spine. He turned to see a ghostly figure standing at the end of the aisle. It was a tall thin man with piercing eyes and a look of intense curiosity. Who are you? Harry asked, his voice steady despite the eerie presence. The ghostly figure smiled. I am Arcturus, guardian of this library. You seek knowledge to combat a great evil, do you not? Harry nodded. Yes. Lord Volter is threatening our world and we need to stop him. Arcturus floated closer, his eyes studying Harry intently. Volter is a powerful foe, but there is hope. Within this library lies the knowledge you seek. You must find the Codex of Eternal Light. It contains the secrets to countering Volter's technology and magic. Where can we find it? Harry asked urgently. Arcturus gestured towards a section of the library bathed in a soft golden light. It is hidden within the Hall of Lost Tomes. But be warned, the Codex is protected by powerful enchantments. Only those pure of heart and strong of will can access it. Harry thanked the ghostly guardian and called Ron and Hermione over. They made their way to the Hall of Lost Tomes, their hearts pounding with anticipation and trepidation. The Hall of Lost Tomes was unlike any part of the library they had seen. It was a circular room with a high domed ceiling. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which rested a large ancient book bound in shimmering golden leather. "This must be it," Hermione whispered, awe in her voice. As they approached the pedestal, the air around them seemed to hum with energy. Harry reached out to touch the codex, but a barrier of light appeared, stopping his hand. He 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. Only those who are worthy can access the codex, a voice echoed through the room. Harry took a deep breath and focused, his mind clear and his heart resolute. He reached out again, and this time, his hand passed through the barrier, grasping the book. The Codex of Eternal Light pulsed with a warm, comforting glow as Harry opened it. The pages were filled with intricate diagrams, spells, and ancient runes. Hermione quickly began to translate the text, her eyes widening with each passing moment. "This is it," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "It contains everything we need to counter Volter's technology and nullification fields. We have a chance, Harry. We can do this." With the codex in their possession, they made their way back through the hidden library and the Department of Mysteries, their spirits lifted by the knowledge they had gained. The journey back to Hogwarts was filled with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. As they entered the castle grounds, the sight of the resilient ancient walls filled them with determination. They had faced great challenges before, and they would face this one with the same courage and resolve. The students and staff of Hogwarts welcomed them back with a mixture of relief and anticipation. Dumbledore met them at the entrance, his eyes reflecting both concern and hope. "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked. Harry nodded, holding up the codex. "We did. We have the knowledge we need to stop Volter." Dumbledore smiled, a rare sight in these troubled times. "Then we must prepare. The final battle is approaching, and we must be ready." As the sun set over Hogwarts, casting long shadows over the castle grounds, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the rest of the school began their preparations. The fight against Lord Volter was far from over, but with the Codex of Eternal Light and the strength of their bonds, they knew they had a chance to protect their world from the encroaching darkness. The days ahead would be filled with trials and tribulations, but they faced the future with unwavering courage. The battle for Hogwarts and for the fate of their world was about to begin. The air at Hogwarts was filled with a charged energy. The once serene atmosphere now buzzed with urgency as students and teachers alike prepared for the imminent battle against Lord Volter. The discovery of the Codex of Eternal Light had given them hope, but there was still much to be done to decipher and implement its ancient knowledge. In the room of requirement, now transformed into a war room, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Dumbledore pored over the codex, its pages filled with intricate spells and diagrams. The room was filled with the hum of hushed conversations and the scratching of quills on parchment as they took notes and made plans. "We need to set up protective barriers around the castle grounds," Hermione said, pointing to a section of the codex that described advanced warding spells. "These will help counteract Volter's nullification fields. And we need to train the students in defensive and offensive magic," Harry added. "They need to be prepared to fight if it comes to that." Dumbledore nodded, his expression grave. "Indeed. We must ensure everyone is ready. The battle ahead will test us all, but we must stand united." Ron looked up from the codex, his brow furrowed. "What about those robots? How do we deal with them?" "The codex mentions a spell that can disrupt their power sources," Hermione replied. "It's complex, but if we can master it, we should be able to disable them." As they discussed their plans, Professor McGonagall entered the room, her presence commanding respect and attention. "We need to coordinate with the other teachers," she said. "Everyone must be aware of their roles and responsibilities." "Agreed," Dumbledore said. "Let's convene a meeting with all the staff and prefects. We need to ensure that everyone is on the same page." He 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. The following morning, the Great Hall was filled with a sense of urgency and purpose. Professors and students gathered around long tables, the usual chatter replaced by serious discussions. Dumbledore stood at the head of the room, his presence commanding attention. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady. "We are facing an unprecedented threat, but with the knowledge we have gained from the Codex of Eternal Light, we have a fighting chance. Each of you has a crucial role to play in the defense of Hogwarts. Professor Flitwick stepped forward, a determined look on his face. We need to reinforce the castle's defenses. I'll work with the other teachers to set up the necessary wards and barriers. I'll oversee the training of the students, Professor McGonagall said. We need to ensure they are prepared for whatever comes our way. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and I will focus on deciphering the codex and developing strategies to counter Volter's forces, Dumbledore continued. Time is of the essence, and we must work swiftly and efficiently. As the meeting broke up, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were approached by Neville Longbottom, his expression one of determination. I want to help, he said. Whatever you need, I'm in. Harry smiled, clapping Neville on the shoulder. Thanks, Neville. We could use all the help we can get. Over the next few days, the castle was a hive of activity. The Great Hall was transformed into a training ground, with students practicing spells and combat techniques under the watchful eyes of their professors. The corridors echoed with the sounds of incantations and the hum of magical energy. In the library, Hermione worked tirelessly to translate the more complex sections of the codex. She was often joined by Luna Lovegood, whose keen intuition and unique perspective proved invaluable. This section here, Hermione said, pointing to a particularly dense page. It describes a way to amplify our magical energy. If we can combine our powers, we might be able to break through Volter's defenses. Luna nodded, her eyes wide with curiosity. It's like a magical symphony. Each of us plays a part and together we create something much greater. Meanwhile, Harry and Ron focused on the tactical aspects of the battle. They worked with Professor Moody, who had returned to Hogwarts to lend his expertise in combat strategy. We need to anticipate Volter's moves, Moody said, his magical eye swiveling as he spoke. He'll likely send his robots in first to weaken our defenses. We need to be ready to counter them. We have a spell that can disrupt their power sources, Harry explained. But we'll need to coordinate our efforts to make it effective. As they planned, Ginny joined them, her face set with determination. I want to help too. I'm not going to sit by while everyone else fights. Harry hesitated, but Ron spoke up. She's right, Harry. We need everyone. Ginny's a strong witch, and we could use her skills. Harry nodded, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. All right, Ginny. Welcome to the team. In the evenings, the trio returned to the room of requirement, now their sanctuary for quiet study and reflection. The room provided a cozy, secluded space where they could unwind and discuss their progress. One evening, as they sat around a small table, Hermione looked up from her notes. I think I found something, she said, excitement in her voice. A spell that can create a temporary shield against nullification fields. It's complex, but if we can master it, it could give us a crucial advantage. That's brilliant, Hermione, Harry said, leaning forward. Let's start practicing it right away. Ron looked thoughtful. We should also think about our tactics on the ground. How we position ourselves, how we coordinate our attacks. Volter's forces are organized, and we need to be even more so. As the days passed, the sense of anticipation grew. The defenses around Hogwarts were reinforced, and the students' training intensified. He/she 7/18/2024 12:08 p.m. The castle, usually filled with laughter and light-hearted chatter, now resonated with the focused determination of those preparing for battle. On the eve of the expected attack, Dumbledore called a final meeting in the Great Hall. The atmosphere was tense but resolute. Dumbledore stood before them, his presence a beacon of strength and wisdom. Tomorrow, we face an enemy unlike any we have encountered before, he began, his voice carrying throughout the hall. But we are not alone. We stand together, united in our purpose. Each of you has shown remarkable courage and determination. Remember that, and let it guide you through the trials ahead. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the gathered students and staff. We have prepared as best we can. Now, we must trust in ourselves and in each other. Together, we will protect Hogwarts and the magical world. As the meeting broke up, Harry, Ron, and Hermione gathered with their friends and allies. The night was spent in quiet conversations, shared moments of reassurance, and final preparations. Harry stood by a window, looking out over the darkened grounds of Hogwarts. The castle stood strong and resilient, a symbol of hope and defiance against the approaching storm. He felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Hermione and Ron standing beside him. We'll get through this, Hermione said, her voice filled with quiet determination. We've faced impossible odds before, and we've always come out stronger. She's right, Ron added. We've got each other, and we've got a plan. Volter doesn't stand a chance. Harry smiled, a sense of calm washing over him. Thanks, you two. We can do this. Together. As dawn approached, the final preparations were made. The castle was fortified, the students were ready, and the stage was set for the battle to come. The air was thick with anticipation, but also with a sense of unity and resolve. The first light of day cast a golden glow over the castle, illuminating the faces of those who stood ready to defend their home. The fight for Hogwarts and for the fate of their world was about to begin. And in that moment, despite the uncertainty and the fear, they felt a deep sense of hope and determination. They were ready. So this is the end of the prologue of my story. What if Harry was raised by overpowered cyborg? I know this is bit long prologue with even parts in it, but believe me, I have great things for you guys. Also, this is the first story that I've written in my life, so please ignore some mistakes. Also, if you want more of this series, please spam blue hearts.